After all this time, why are you still scrolling? Even after watching the videos on dopamine detoxing, on quitting social media, you still find yourself going back to it. Back to the endless void of content out there on social media. I'm asking this question not to attack you, not to insult you and say, oh, you should just be more disciplined, just quit social media. I'm really asking you why. I want you to truly understand the why. Because I'm not here today to yell at you and tell you you lack discipline. I know the reason that you go back to scrolling isn't because you don't try. It's not because you haven't tried a dopamine detox before, tried to delete social media before. And I completely understand it's easy to go back to it. It's fun, it's painless, it's convenient, it's addicting, it's a compulsive behavior. But at its core, we all know that scrolling isn't good for us. It's meaningless. In short, you just haven't conquered yourself yet. I think a lot of you know that my biggest problem, my biggest vice, the thing that affects me the most, that's hardest for me to get away from, it isn't scrolling or playing video games or eating junk food. It's porn. I was addicted to porn for 3 years. I remember I was back in 7th grade when I found out. I was just a little boy. I was a little kid curious on the internet, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea it was an addictive behavior. I thought it was completely fine. So when I found out about NoFap and self-improvement, I was already fapping every single day. I was already completely addicted. And every single time I would fap, every single time I would release, I would be like, damn, I feel like shit. I feel guilty. Every single time I felt guilty, guess what? It didn't help that I knew it was bad for me. I still did it anyway. It's not that I wanted to, it's that it was fucking hard to stop. It's that the urge to do it was so strong. After building this habit every single day for like a year and a half, I expected to just be able to stop instantly. I may have presented it in the way that I am somehow completely free from fapping, from porn, but I have not conquered this part of myself fully yet. I'm at a time and place where I've almost conquered myself, but this has taken like 2 years, 2.5 years of work. I really love this term, conquering yourself. I love it so much because of how real it is. When I was struggling on NoFap, it was like I was just fighting myself every single day. Like it was a 1v1 battle between the new version that I wanted to be and my old self, the porn addicted, weak boy that I was. And I wanted to become this new person, and so every day it was a battle to the death between these two, and most of the time, the current self, the weak version of myself, took over. It was so hard for me to win because there was this insanely strong pull to lose, to relapse, to go back to it. But it's like ever so slightly, I would start getting little cuts on this current version of myself. Maybe I'd like cut a finger off or something, you know? Just a small win, maybe one day where I didn't relapse, where I didn't go back to it. And those small wins accumulate over time, and suddenly I'm winning more than I'm losing. But the thing was, when I started NoFap, I was addicted for longer than I had known about NoFap. But for basically all the time that I've known about NoFap, I've been addicted for longer than that. This is a very difficult battle that I have constantly had to fight. Something that was so much easier for me was quitting video games and quitting social media. Quitting video games was because I got bored of it. It just wasn't as fun as it used to be, and I was done. But the one that proves this point is social media. I think the reason it was so easy for me to get away from social media, to delete it and never re-download it, never really go back again, is because I only got it in middle school. I only got like Snapchat, Instagram in middle school, and then I quit social media in middle school. So it was like in 7th grade, I got Instagram and Snapchat, whatever, and then in 8th grade, I deleted it. So it wasn't very hard for me to let it go. But for you, scrolling may have been something that has just been a part of your life for years and years and years and years. Or it could be possible that you just spend so much time every single day scrolling, and you've built up that habit, that super strong habit of scrolling every single day. I was never really like that. But to drive this point home even further, the thing that I had used the most, and for the longest time, ever since I was much younger, was YouTube. I loved watching YouTube videos when I was younger. I never really scrolled or was on Instagram or any of that. It was just YouTube. And guess what? The thing that I still find myself wasting time on today, like randomly finding myself watching videos, is on YouTube. That's where I find myself wasting time. And it's because that's the habit I've built up for the longest. Quitting social media for me is probably going to be easier than it is for you. And if I were to tell you, oh, just quit, that's such stupid advice, because then you're going to feel like a failure. Because you are going to fail. If you've been building up a habit, an addiction for a long time, especially if it's something that you do like every single day for a long amount of time, it's going to be extremely hard to break, and it's going to take a ton of work to break it. It's nice to have the idea in your head that you should just be able to stop. It is possible, but the probability that you are just going to be like, man, I'm going to delete all these apps right now that I've been using for 7 years and just never use them again. The probability of that happening is so low. It's the same thing with quitting porn. If you're like, I've been doing this habit for 5 years and I'm gonna stop today. It's like, no, you aren't. You're gonna relapse. Obviously, you are going to make mistakes. You aren't going to just follow through because you want to, because you have the knowledge, because you know about quitting, you have the knowledge and you want to, but your brain is also telling you, the version of yourself right now is telling you, I also want to keep scrolling. I don't want you to quit this addiction. How about we just keep scrolling more? Why are you even trying on this? Let's just keep scrolling more. It's so fun. Every single day, you have to fight to conquer yourself. You have to fight that primal desire. And I'm gonna be honest, you're gonna lose a lot. When I found out about NoFap was the time where I lost all the time. I was relapsing every day, every other day, making little tiny bits of progress. But as time went on, I kept fighting, I kept winning more, relapsing less, and at this point, I've almost killed off that past version of myself. I've almost conquered myself. Conquering yourself is to kill off the old version of you. The old version of you that you used to be like, that people used to associate you with. And that's the identity that you've held for a long time. So it's going to be hard to conquer yourself and step into a new identity. But you have to constantly be trying. Even though you lose most battles, even though you don't feel good every single day, you keep trying. The reason that I don't play video games or scroll anymore isn't because I somehow have infinite willpower or discipline. It's just because it's not a part of who I am anymore. Like, my identity, it's totally different than what it used to be when I was this person who would scroll, who would go on TikTok, who would play video games and play Overwatch and Fortnite. I'm not that person anymore. I don't think for a second about video games or scrolling at all at any time. Every single day, there is not a single thought in my head about, oh, I kind of want to play Overwatch right now. I kind of want to scroll right now. It's like, I don't think about it because it's not a part of my identity. I have conquered that version of myself and stepped into a new version of myself. And that is the point you want to get to with all these things that are holding you back and that are addictions. And it is still the point that I am getting to with NoFap. I think I've kind of figured out that everyone seems to have their main vice. For some people, like some of my friends I see, it's video games. For some, it's porn. For some, it's scrolling. But for other people, it's weed or junk food. Whatever that thing is, there's one rule to beating it and to conquering yourself. Because the question now is, how do you do it? How do you get to that point where you don't even think about it? Because right now it's probably the only thing that you can think about. In your head all day is just, man, I really want to be scrolling right now. Like, I'm so bored right now. I could just, go on YouTube Shorts. I could just scroll on Reels or TikTok. And so you're probably thinking, how do I get to the point where literally that thought never pops up in my head? Well, the first and most obvious thing to do is to fix your environment. The place that you are in, your digital environment, those things are going to greatly affect if you make progress or not. You have to set yourself up for success first. Things like deleting social media from your phone, getting extensions on your computer. There's actually a really good extension that I want to tell you about right now, which is called AdBlock Plus. If you click on the extension, there's this thing that says like block element, and you can block any element on a page. So you can literally block like your subscription feed, your up next feed, anything you want, you can block it. But optimizing your environment isn't the thing that actually helps you conquer yourself. The most important thing that I even made an entire video on, that is the most generic, cliche, regular, whatever advice, but it's the most important advice that everyone gives you, is to never give up. You only lose if you give up and stop trying. You can fail over and over and over again. You can relapse again and again. You could re-download the app 20 times, and guess what? You would still be a success, because in the end, when you're not addicted anymore, when you don't even think about it, since you never gave up, those failures weren't actually failures. They're just little stumbles on the way to you getting to the point you want to be. Little stumbles on the way to reaching the peak of the mountain. Let's face it, scrolling's an addicting behavior. You will have to keep fighting day after day after day to win, to actually conquer yourself. Would you tell someone that's addicted to cocaine to just go back to snorting coke because they relapsed once? Or would you tell them to never stop trying to get away from this addiction because their life would be so much better without it? You would probably tell them something closer to the second option. Don't give up because you will never be free. Don't give up because you want to and you want to go back to scrolling. Don't give up because you don't think you can do it. Don't give up if you even re-download the apps. Don't give up if you scrolled for 6 hours. Don't even give up if you scrolled for 10 hours on TikTok yesterday. It doesn't matter. Every single one of these mini failures is just on your way to success. Nobody is a failure until they decide they are, until they decide that they're going to give up and stop trying. Imagine if I gave up on NoFap after the first relapse, the second, the 10th, the 82nd. All of these failures have led me to becoming more and more successful, having more and more wins, and eventually you will conquer yourself. But every battle that you have with yourself, you won't always win. You are going to lose in the beginning so much more than you want to. But that doesn't mean that you can give up. You simply cannot allow it. You will just never give up because that's the type of person you are. Simply don't allow for failure to be an option by never giving up, by constantly trying again and again and again every single day. I realize that this is the only way to get past a bad habit or an addiction. When you look past the mindset shifting, the positive affirmations, your environment, and whatever strategy you're trying to use to quit your addiction, the only thing that really matters is that you keep going every single day and you keep fighting. Because eventually that will give you enough proof to tell yourself, okay, I'm not someone that scrolls anymore. I'm not a scroller. This thing that you tell yourself, this identity that you say that you are, you will have eventually enough proof to believe it. To say, look, yeah, I am not a scroller. I don't use any of these apps anymore. I don't use social media. And then once you believe that in your mind, once you take on that identity and conquer your old self and step into the new identity, you will never think about this shit again. But to make it not a part of you, you have to fight every single day. Just do that shit, bro, okay? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you feel. None of this matters. This is such a big topic that's been on my mind for so long, and I've been talking about it in a previous video that I recorded. It's literally all about that, just taking action and just doing it. I'm not telling you to just quit. I'm telling you to keep trying. I'm telling you, even if you make mistakes, because you probably will, you most likely will, 99% of you watching this video aren't going to be like, oh yeah, let me quit social media, I'm done. For me, it was easier because I had barely used social media for like 1 year maybe, and I didn't even use it that much. My Snap score was like less than 1,000 for the entire time I had it. If you keep trying and keep trying, it will be like that thing was never a part of your life. Eventually, you will get to that point. And as always, never stop improving. You'll be grateful for it later.